Hello, everyone. So, welcome back. And now we have the first panel discussion this morning, and it's on a hot topic, new ways of working in pharma Capex projects delivery. And you know how much of discussions you have in all the organizations about what is Capex, what is OPEX, what should be in Capex, and what should be in OPEX. So, glad this topic has been included in the agenda. So let me present you the panel moderator. It will be Nataraj Dasgupta. He is Vice President of Analytics, RX Data Science. Nataraj has over 21 years of industry experience in developing the vision, strategy, and execution of analytic capabilities in finance and pharmaceutical domains. Nataraj is core architect of the real-world evidence and RX data analytics solution at Purdue Pharma, which was spun out into a new startup, RX Data Science. He's member of the core founding team and VP of Advanced Analytics. So, Nataraj, glad to meet you again. And the floor is yours. And I let you present the panel speakers and also get straight to the panel discussion.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mithun, for that introduction. It kind of always worries me when you say those things because it sets the bar a bit high, and I'm always worried if I can live up to the expectation of the introduction. But so, welcome everyone. We have a very distinguished panel of speakers here, and we're going to speak about new ways of working in pharma Capex project delivery. It's presumably a very important topic, one that has gained a lot of attention since the last year. So I'd like to first introduce the panel speakers. We have Andrea Carlson. Andrea is the Director of Capital Projects and Portfolio Management at Boehringer Ingelheim. Andrea is passionate about how the combination of engineering excellence and business success leads to cost-effective solutions that meets quality and customer requirements. So welcome, Andrea. Next, we have Vinicius Santana. Vinicius is the Project Management Administrator at AbbVie, leading capital project investments at the Guarulhos plant in Brazil, from the initial specification, CE issue to final delivery of the project. And welcome, Vinicius, as well.
Thank you.
And we also have Kelly Keane. Kelly is an architect who transitioned into R&D construction management. She founded kellykeane.com in 2020 in response to clients needing consulting for project, program, and portfolio setups. Over her career, she has worked with Genentech, Roche, Novartis, Boehringer Ingelheim, Exelixis, Paul Pharma Biologics, as well as many high-tech companies in the San Francisco Bay Area. She has served on the ISPA, International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineers, Board of Directors from 2017 until 2019, and remains a member of the EU Leadership Team and Pharma 4.0 Advisory Board. Welcome, Kelly. So first, I'd like to, almost start off with an introductory question, which is, what kind of, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what kind of CapEx projects you have been involved in, and maybe some background into the project. So I'd like to start with you, Andrea, and go in round robin across all the other participants.
No, totally. So, projects have been really the passion since I started my career in pharma and biotech almost 20 years ago. And the reason is because they have like a start and an end. Sometimes the end gets a little bit later than we planned from the beginning, but still there's like a fixed something in there, which I've always liked. My focus throughout this entire time has been in pharma and biotech expansions, both green and brownfield, retrofits and startups. Worked with a lot of clients across the globe, both on the engineering side, the company, the AE side, as well as on the owner side. So also in all product phases. So I would say I have a pretty broad experience across the product life cycle as well. And also in a lot of different countries. I'm from Sweden originally, and now I've been in the US for the last almost 10 years. A few examples is restarting a large biotech facility here in California, injectable greenfields. So yeah, pretty much everything project.
Well, very, very nice. So pretty diverse experience across different sizes of companies, geographies, and so on. So
Yeah.
very valuable. Vinicius, would you mind
Yeah.
sharing? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone in the audience knows what is Capex. I will give a brief. Capex is related to new assets from the company. Basically, are costs incurred in acquiring fixed assets. So everything new we need to buy, we consider a capex, different of opex, né? Which is more related to operation and process. In my case, we consider capex assets which costs more than $10,000. This is the point of my department. It doesn't mean that below $10,000 is an asset. It is. However, it will be carried out by the user department. So depending of the total value, the improvement can be dealt by the highest managers. Now, any further I do, I carry out projects in order to provide assets for all areas of the company, buy or repair an equipment, reform or refurbish some area, constructions of buildings, or buy computers, or some demand from the EHS or Environment, Health and Safety Department. I carry out projects for all these instances. Today, we have almost 15 projects, and the total budget around $8 million. And the most valuable project is a retrofit of some filling rooms and filling machine, which we are working on to deliver. This project will with all qualification by second quarter of 2022. This project is the most challenging project of the plant because it's working on the production area running. So we need to isolate the area and create a new personal flow for the builders and manufactured workers. And for now, we are on the schedule. That's it.
Cool. Thank you. So you seem to be very like knee deep into the whole space of
Yeah.
capex, especially in terms of manufacturing and so on. So thank you, Kelly. Would you mind sharing some thoughts as well, please?
Sure. So the types of projects I've been involved with over my career, as you mentioned, I was an architect first, and I was doing laboratory design mostly for a company out of the US that was working with Novartis, Exelixis, and a lot of the large San Francisco-based companies. And Genentech, which was really the founders of biotechnology, when they built their first building in 1996, I was working with them as an architect and then continued on that building as a construction manager and engineer. And then later in my career, went to work for Genentech and Roche for about 13 years. So I've done laboratories, E. coli and CHO manufacturing plants, a lot of office buildings in between there throughout the years, and also to vivariums where they do animal work on the products. And over my career, I transitioned into portfolio management with strategy and engineering, and today more doing the portfolio management side. The processes that I've worked with, and I think in the next session we'll get into a little bit more about the differences between the larger and the smaller companies. I've seen every size of company throughout my career, and the big pharmaceuticals, of course, have the money to invest in these new technologies. And then there's also the much smaller companies that I've worked with where their processes aren't in place yet, and a lot of the job is just getting the right expertise and building processes around it.
Nice. So also a very diverse background, lab design, manufacturing, and so on. So thank you. So one of the important questions that has come up is in light of the changes in or dynamics of the circumstances we have seen since last year. So what digital technologies you have had the best experience with, and how has it been utilized in projects, for instance, in a virtual design and construction, AI and collective intelligence, crowdsourcing, and e-systems? So what kind of innovations have you seen, that have made a large impact? So Kelly, I'll start with you and then again go back in the same order.
I think the main thing that I'm really trying to push with clients is virtual design and construction. And this is very different from BIM technologies in that it's not just the design itself and the 3D, 4D model of it. Every single entity within this model has a cost estimate, a schedule element, a specifications element. It connects into the e-plant systems in terms of being able to track quality, regulatory, maintenance records for equipment and other parts of the design. It's something that everybody is working within the same model. You're not relying on the architect to put out drawings or waiting 2 or 3 weeks at a time for an issue of drawings. Everything is real time. Everybody is within the system. And also too, I see this turning into an overall tendering platform where we're not going to have the quantity surveyors anymore from 4 or 5 different general contractors doing these takeoffs and having probably 3 to 5 subcontractors for each trade doing the same work. It's going to be already in there, automatic, everything comes in, and you're not relying on change orders from architectural and engineering mistakes. So I think this virtual design and construction is going to really change the entire construction industry, similar to what AutoCAD did back in the 1980s and 90s.
Interesting. And Vinicius, you've also had, I think, a fair amount of exposure in this space. So do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, in ABB we use this almost the same tools there. I think the most useful tool is still MS Project in order to manage projects. If we have a good scope definition, you won't have any problem with this tool. We also try to use Planner, MS Planner, Microsoft Planner, and when we work with MS Project Online, we can integrate some activities. It is fast to be done. We can integrate each other, and the activities are instantly disseminated with all stakeholders. We have a SharePoint, a cloud solution to control the project files and share documents with stakeholders. I also use AutoCAD to check area and some prototypes every day. As we have a small team in my department, we are focused on the management of the project, and we contract companies which can provide the drawings and as-built. But we use CAD softwares like AutoCAD, Revit, and others to verify, collect information, and approve the project execution. We report costs to the financial team through a spreadsheet in Excel, which we can bring information from project and SAP. SAP is useful for us because we can control costs and the delivery time of the materials, everything. And when it comes to Capex, which we need to report information for the company headquarters, we have a lot of report formats. We also use templates in the SharePoint to request a capital approval. For the communication, Microsoft Teams, we can connect with everyone in the company around the globe. And just to sum up, every tool you have can help you in many different cases to manage your project. So just a tip, enjoy these tools. Because when I start working with project, we used to work with a paper to drawings, and 20 years ago we can see this advance of technology 20 years ago. Today we can print prototypes in 101 scale, and that's it. I think that all tools that we have to manage projects is important for us now.
Sure. Yes, I think that's been one of the discoveries, since last year. Suddenly remote working has been normalized, and things that were sort of unfamiliar in the pharma space, unlike the tech space, have become very common, right? So, Andrea, so thank you, Venius. Andrea, you also work with startups and various types of companies, especially in the Bay Area, right? So, what is, do you have any, insights in digital technologies, AI, virtual design, and so on?
Yeah, so and I mean, it's interesting, and just to tie on what you just talked about, Nata, right? This is like this last year, I think all of us have had to sort of think a little bit about how we're working, right? I would say, what Kelly is talking about is like the future. And I think, at least from where I'm at now, it will take a while to get there. But I think we have all understood the benefits when we can look at the same data at the same time and understand what this means and what we're going to do with it. It's just kind of like a natural development in this virtual world, right? So I think from our perspective, and also tying into what you said, Vincius, because I mean, to me, all these new modern collaboration tools is really, I think, what have supported us during this last year. And I think understanding that and then how can we sort of tie that all together in more like that tool where everyone can both work and see the information, that is, I think, what's going to really develop fast now. I feel this last year, I mean, we've also used a lot of whiteboards for, I mean, okay, how do you do pool planning when you can't meet each other? Okay, yeah, you can use whiteboard, and it's developed so fast, right? Every time you go in there is some new features, and the same with Mural. So I think we've all basically grabbed the best technology there is out there to be able to do our job as successful virtually, right? So I think it's been really interesting. I think we all have had to be on our toes to just adapt to. I mean, the same with MS Teams, right? Every time you go in there, it's something new or different. So I think that's opened a new avenue. So I'm excited to see what this will sort of bring. Also because people will continue to work virtually. So we need to figure out this balance between being in the office and being able to do the same things virtually. So yeah, we have used the basic things, but I'm excited what this will bring in the future. On the portfolio management side, I've just implemented a software to see finances and schedule and resources in parallel. So that is something we have done this last year, and I'm really excited about that. So that has really helped on the portfolio management side and also virtually, right? Because you see updates live. Yeah, you don't have 3 different spreadsheets when you're looking at finances in one and resources. So that's another way where I feel like from a portfolio management control that has really helped us as well. So those are my thoughts.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Like I mentioned to the organizers, it's the first time actually I've been, well, second time since last year I've been attending a conference virtually. Like, how often did you get to do that prior to, 2020? So interesting, you mentioned.
Really quick though, one of the things you mentioned in your question was about artificial intelligence, and none of us really talked about how that will be used in construction. And construction is one of the furthest behind in terms of using artificial intelligence. And there really are a lot of great ways of using it for knowledge management, lessons learned, being able to take this data, and not just from your own company, but being able to combine it from other companies too, to know what the potential costs should be for these types of projects, how long it should take. And if we can really collect all this data into a base, and it will really increase the time, or decrease the time to get the drugs to the patients. And so we've seen this happening with COVID in terms of we must move much faster in order to get these treatments out. So artificial intelligence is something that we really do need to focus on as an industry. And really pharmaceutical companies have the capital to drive this.
Yes, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because we are engaged in various AI-related projects from, clinical to commercial market research. And what might be the reason that, we don't have enough AI in the construction space, given, there are fields like optimization that probably could be applied very successfully? Like, is there any specific reason it's not there yet, or it's just
the initial investment in the technology? And a lot of owners don't see the use of spending a lot more upfront to get the data into a database and be able to use it, rather than understanding that it's going to save them money down the road. It's a long process, and the technology, the software, there's not a leader like AutoCAD or Microsoft in this field that can really do it for us yet.
Sure.
And I think that it's also a very traditional trade, right? If you compare to, if you do this in research, right? They're used to doing this, right? They've always had data analytics as something that is in their core, not so much the construction industry, right? So I think it's also transition, right? And also talking about virtual, I mean, there are some construction aspects that you just cannot do virtually, right? So I think it's kind of combining two worlds, but I think we're on a good pace now because I think a lot of people have seen that this actually works. You can manage construction projects virtually, right? And I don't think anyone would have agreed with that a year ago, honestly.
Yeah, indeed. Even traditional fields, right? It's just sort of an extension of that, like commercial market research. We've always had sales reps go and speak to physicians, and the use of ML, machine learning, hasn't been really it's not been there. You do promotional mix modeling and so on. But since last year, especially with digital influence, the digitalization, and you're seeing more and more chief digital officers at firms, there are companies that have gone like 80% on the AI side, right? And these are large pharmaceutical organizations. The entire, call planning, target list, all that switched there. Now, one of the things you mentioned, Andre, is that virtual plans, I think, is a bit futuristic or a bit ahead of its time in relation to what Kelly mentioned. So, would you or Kelly, expand on that? Like, for the benefit of some of our, audience, what is a virtual plant?
Is that to Andrea or to me?
You can start, Kelly, and then Andrea, you can chime in.
Well, virtual plan, so it's a model where everything within this model, when you're looking at the renderings of it, it's the actual photo of what that material is. The equipment is actually put out by the equipment vendor, so you're really seeing a three-dimensional object of this equipment and the connections and everything in relation to it. It's something where they can really monitor the clash control. That's something that's out of basic BIM, but you're able to really be within the model, and they're even using virtual reality on some of these systems where you can be within the model with others that you're collaborating on with, and it's something that they're using a lot for the safety features of it in terms of being able to go within this building and identify potential health and safety issues within it. It's really it's a three-dimensional, well, actually 5 or 6 dimensional workplace for the teams.
And I think what you said before, right, in the 80s and 90s when AutoCAD came out, I think everyone thought it was complicated and expensive. So I think it's back to that whole, it's going to be like a new way, and it's going to take, I mean, our industry, unfortunately, is not the most agile in adapting new technologies. I think we will all agree with that. So it's probably going to take a little bit of time. This is going to go probably much faster than before because we have this last year helping us out, but it's still like, oh, should I invest this now up front? What do I actually going to get? So it's going to be a little bit of time. So I'm expecting to see a lot of that in conferences over the next, 2-3 years. And then hopefully people will start trying it out, because to me, this sounds like, from my engineering background, this sounds like the dream, right? If you can have all this collected into one place, but of course there's going to be a cost with it. So then you need to see what is then the benefit, right? And the benefit will be there, but it's as usual a little bit more difficult to show, well, if we can keep all our products on time or whatever that might be. So I think that is really the key, where this is going to take us. But I think hopefully this can go a little bit faster now, just because we have been pretty fast adapters with some of these other technologies.
Interesting, and we have also seen things like holograms, right? So physicians actually looking at patients, and they're sitting next to you, like, Stephen Hawking did a presentation last year, and his hologram was basically, like sort of teleported down like Star Trek kind of thing. Vinicius, do you have something to add? I mean, we're having quite an interesting conversation.
About virtual plant, we don't use yet virtual plant, but just one experience that we had in a filling room, we use a prototype of the room to see to investigate some contamination or to prevent some contamination. Just once we have this experience, but I know that this is a new technology to help us with everything inside our company. I know that for next projects we'll use this, but I don't have a lot of experience with this kind of technology now. You know.
Sure. Yeah, I think, it's an emerging field, right? In tech and finance and astrophysics in certain places is very well developed. But I think one of the things to also keep in mind is the sooner the better. The companies that actually
Yeah,
make
yeah,
use of the trend,
yeah.
and more generally, you get a sort of a head start. So just wanted to get some closing thoughts. And, Vinicius, if we can start with you, and Andrea, and then Kelly, please.
What is the question? Sorry.
So just some closing thoughts, Capex in project delivery, like in general.
Um, what do you mean exactly?
Yeah. So what do you think, how is Capex going to change going forward, given all the developments we have seen? And do you see any disruptive changes in the industry in the way it has worked, in addition to
Yeah.
what we discussed?
Oh, for project management, I think that agile is a new technology, is a new how do you say? Agile is a new methodology to carry out projects, and with Kanban, Scrum, and design thinking, this is uh, the new tool to carry out project. But I don't know. I'm studying to get this certification in this year, and I couldn't see this methodology inside the Capex. You know, I try to identify a way to work with agile. I think that this is the next step to carry out projects in Capex. You
Sure.
know.
Thank you. Yes. So repurposing the concept of agile in the Capex space. Andrea, any
Yeah.
thoughts? Thank you,
No,
Vinicius.
that's what I would love to tie into, right? Because we have already tried it out. I would say we're using a hybrid model, right? So we're not doing
Yeah.
like
Completely
dailies,
agree.
stand-up meetings. We do like weekly. We plan sprints for about a
A
month,
Kanban
right?
board,
Because
for example, I
yeah, and
use a
then
lot.
we have the planning in that, right? But I think and I think everyone is excited. I still think we haven't really tried it out on a large capex project, so like 20, 30 million. I've started with my smaller projects or portfolios where it's been also really
Yeah.
successful when you have like multiple things going on. So I mean, I think our team is super excited about this because it's more visual. And I think this is totally, for me, this is totally the future. I still want to try it out a little bit more and see what comes back. But I think, and again, it's not new, right? The IT friends have been using this for,
Yeah, he's more
so
using.
it just has to be adapted a little bit. And as our products have longer cycles, I mean, in biotech, if you build a new plan, it's quite complex, right? And it's much longer cycles and so many different disciplines. So I think you just have to do a hybrid and whatever works for that
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
And that's what I
Yeah.
would also recommend everyone to try it
Yeah.
out, right? What
Yeah.
works
Yeah.
for them.
Actually,
Thank you. Yes.
uh, I
Very
think that
quickly, Vinicius. I'll get to Kelly because we
yeah,
have
we
a
don't
couple
have
of
no
minutes.
no. I
Good.
can chat after the
Sure.
presentation.
Thank you. Absolutely. Kelly, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest disruption we're going to see over the next few years, especially with the emergence of cell and gene therapy and the fact that there isn't any real equipment that is, well, they're in the design process right now of making equipment that can make this process more efficient. I really think that similar to Uber and Lyft and these sort of programs, that you're going to start seeing rental equipment. The equipment is the longest lead time and probably the biggest investment that owners have on the projects. And if you can have spaces that are very flexible, almost every CMO has these ballroom spaces that they can modify depending on what product that they're doing. And if you can have the equipment rented out so that you're not having to put that time and money investment into it, the biggest hurdle with that is going to be the validation of that equipment. And so being able to work it in that the supporters or the providers of these equipment are actually taking care of the IQ and OQ protocol, and then that the owner, as they're bringing it into the production side. And also too, I see this equipment being mobile, that it goes to the patient or to the hospital where the patients are being treated rather than having a manufacturing plant, so that the companies will be doing a lot less investments on the manufacturing side. So that's something that I think will definitely disrupt our industry over the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure. Thank you. That's very interesting. So we've come to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you for sharing all these incredible thoughts. The way the industry is changing, the application of agile methodologies, virtual plants, how the world is sort of shifting to a more virtual world, so to speak. So thanks for all your insights, and I'm very sure that our audience will find this extremely insightful. And if there are other questions, the conference organizers will be reaching out separately. So thank you very much, Vinicius, Andrea, and Kelly
Thank you
for your
too.
participation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kelly, Andrea. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.